Meet Midori Akitsu, a 27-year-old one bad PowerPoint presentation away from a permanent nap time. After collapsing at her front door, she's reborn with powers that make Pokemon trainers look like amateurs, all because of an unhealthy obsession with fluffy animals. Now, Midori must decide if the humans in this new world are worth saving, or if she should just turn the entire place into a petting zoo. The fate of an entire world is about to be decided by a child. Let's see if humanity can actually survive this. Midori gets back to her apartment in the evening after a hectic workday. As soon as she enters the house, she slumps to the ground, unable to move. She notices that she's dying from overworking herself. Guess you can really work yourself to death. Her spirit lifts from her body, and she is sad about not having anyone around for her final moments and not being able to say goodbye to her parents. As she sulks, God asks her if she would like him to intervene and change how she dies. God offers her to be reincarnated with whatever power she wants in a different world called Asdillan, where humans seem to be oppressing the creatures there. He wants to use her to decide if the humans should be wiped out. I thought he promised with a rainbow not to do that again. Noah better get the ark ready. She decides that she wants to be able to pet fluffy animals. She's been dying to pet her parents' kitty. He doesn't really understand her demands. That kind of animal fetish caught him off guard. Even God's creations can pull a fast one on him. She opens her eyes to a new family where she is known as Nefertima, third born to the royal ducal family of Ospi. Her third birthday comes up and she's outside celebrating with her family. Her older brother, named Ralph, and her older sister, Karna, who seems to possess magic powers, give her flowers and fireworks. Her father, who has a serious daughter complex, can't stop staring at his cute daughter. She gets to leave the house and goes on a trip with her mother to the royal palace. When they arrive, Nefertima's mother puts a protective spell on her and tells her to wait by a bench while she goes about her business. As she is waiting, she sees a bird outside the window and completely ignores what her mother just said. She jumps out the window and starts chasing the bird. Might as well give her mother a heart attack. When she stops because she is tired, different fluffy animals surround her while she pets them. They suddenly get scared by a creature in the bushes and run away. As the creature emerges, Nefertima comes face to face with a white tiger. As they stare at each other, expecting Nefertima to run, but she does the complete opposite and is filled with excitement at the sight of another fluffy animal. This child is braver than most men. If I was the tiger, I would be scared. Due to the powers that God gave her, the tiger doesn't attack but immediately takes a liking to her. Or maybe he's saving her to eat later.
Damn!
The tiger takes her for a ride on its back. Then they meet a blue-haired boy sitting at the top of the tree. He seems to be the tiger's owner. He comes down and takes Nefertima off the tiger's back. She starts struggling to be put down, but the boy finds it fun when he sees her struggling and decides to put her on his shoulders. Seems the people in this kingdom all have some kind of fetish. The tiger then helps to put her down before the boy asks her who she is and why she is out there alone. She introduces herself to him and she is guided back to the palace. As they enter the king's office, Nima sees her father, and the boy explains how he found her playing with the tiger. Nima's father asks her what happened, and she narrates coming there with her mom, and how she was lonely and decided to go out and play. Her father seemed very calm that she was playing with a tiger. His daughter complex takes over once again. Nima's father thanks the blue-haired boy and refers to him as His Highness. It then clocks to Nima that the brute that was teasing her is actually the prince. She thanks him accordingly. Then the king introduces himself as Galdi Rusgash and welcomes her to visit again. She gets back with her mom, and her mother scolds her for running away on her own. She tells Nima to only go see the white tiger when there's no one there. Nima's mother refers to the white tiger as Lars, and tells her that it is a holy beast that can use elemental power, which is known as elementalism. Holy beasts are supposed to only grow attached to the master they bond with. In this case, Lars should only bond with the prince, so it's odd to see that it has an attachment to her as well. I'm surprised that's what worries them and not the fact that a 3-year-old is playing with a tiger. After that, she goes on another trip to her siblings' school to watch their performance. As she gets there, she immediately starts thinking of finding rare fluffy animals to find at the academy. I hope this condition doesn't follow her into adulthood. Her mother then tells her not to try what she did at the palace again. I hope she listens this time. The kid is a crackhead. They get to the arena where they are seated and served refreshments befitting royalty. Here, her brother, Ralphide Osfi, is supposed to engage in a battle of commanding troops using magic powers. It's like playing chess or Age of Empires. The battle begins and the troops are seen clashing at each other with everything they have, but Ralph emerges victorious at the end. As Ralph celebrates his victory and hugs his sister, she gets a sudden urge to pee. Such perfect timing. She comes out to the hallway and sees her brother talking to a classmate, Tristan, who gives a snarky comment about him trying to use her as an excuse when he gets beaten. Nima feels enraged by that comment and snaps back at him. He gets offended and is about to beat her before the prince suddenly shows up and stops him. The prince reprimands Tristan and lets Ralph know how he and Nima met at the palace while she was lost. The prince begins teasing her again and even offers free movement for her to go and come to the palace whenever she pleases. Manipulating a 3-year-old is not what I expected of a prince. Nima loses complete reasoning when it comes to furries. The prince notices her eyes are black, and that's not normal for people of their kingdom. Nima successfully distracts him by telling him to be calling her by her nickname, and the prince offers to be called Will as well. They head back to the arena where Karna is about to perform a test by defeating a creature summoned by a magic circle. Unexpectedly, a fire dragon is summoned from the circle and everyone is scared. But Karna starts smiling and is determined to defeat the dragon. Something is definitely wrong with the people in this family. Even her mom is rooting for her to go for it. Nima, feeling so much compassion for her sister, jumps down to the arena without thinking. This 3-year-old will really be the death of her mother. She runs straight for the dragon and tells the mages that were about to attack not to hurt him. Now she's just showing off. A dragon isn't even a furry, for goodness sake. Who raised this child? Nima gets into a conversation with the dragon and asks it not to hurt anyone. This child is quite naive. It's a dragon. What's it supposed to do?
Wait a minute! Who are you?
She gets lost in thought about how the dragon's scales would feel and tells the dragon that she wants to pat it. At this point, they're probably just all Pokemon to her. The dragon is surprised that Nima doesn't fear him. The prince stops the soldiers that were about to intervene in the matter. Who stops soldiers from saving a child from a dragon? The dragon then tells Nima that he'll acknowledge her as his master when she comes of age. And just like that, she has her very own Charizard. Before leaving, he gives her an orb that she can use to communicate mentally with him and also use his powers. She transforms the orb into a teddy bear sash and keeps it on her waist. The dragon also introduces himself as Soul before flying away. Karna rushes to her sister and nearly squeezes the life out of her because of how worried she was. Even the prince teases her again by squeezing her cheeks and also mentions to her father how the royal palace would request their presence. Her father shows his resolve by being ready to kill anyone who comes close to his daughter. I guess his daughter complex can come in handy in certain situations. As they enter the palace throne room, they are introduced to the king and discussion on the events that happened at the academy begin. Her father is being questioned, and he lets the king know that there wasn't a formal pact formed between her and the dragon. I guess the dragon isn't ready to start babysitting.
Emotional, damn it!
Nima's father swears on his name that she will not bring harm to the kingdom through the dragon's powers. The director of the Magical Research Center then explains that the appearance of the dragon may be due to the will of God. The kingdom's high priest also agrees that this may be the cause, but so that humans may rule supreme over creatures. Nima notices this is the reason she was sent here. Sending a 3-year-old on a political ceasefire is crazy. God really makes you his soldier from the get-go. Nima decides that she'll have time to investigate the matter and she has time till she dies. Guess she forgot what happened in her previous life. The ignorance of childhood is amusing. The prince, Will, notices her drifting off in her thoughts and asks her to play with Lars, the white tiger. Guess everyone has accepted she can probably tame any creature. She hangs on the tiger's tail, and it carries her to a different section of the throne room. She sees a cup containing meat that is used to feed the tiger and begins feeding him bare-handed. This child confidently puts her hands in a tiger's mouth while feeding it. She has to be outright dumb, and the people in the room looking at her are even most likely dumber. A maid offers her a napkin to clean her hands, and the maid is blown away by the overwhelming cuteness of the child. Yet another adult with some sort of child complex. Is there no one that's normal here? As Nima falls asleep on the tiger's body, rumors start flying around the room about how she could be dangerous with such powers. Some people, such as the head of the royal knighthood, General Zelnan, offer to keep her safe and give her guards, while the high priest wants to turn her into a maiden at their church. A priest wanting to take little children into his custody? I wonder where I've seen this before. Luckily, Duke Osvi is able to calm down the situation. Lars wakes Nima up after the meeting, and her parents assure her that nothing bad is going to happen to her. The king gives Nima permission to go wherever she wants to in the palace, and the prince offers to show her some animals she'd definitely be interested in. Maybe he's trying to feed her to them, considering the way he said it. She is then introduced to Gwyn of the royal guards, who takes her to the dragon stables. I knew the prince was trying to feed her. At the stables, Nima meets Dan Yates, captain of the Dragon Knights. Seems Gwyn and Dan don't really get along and have a rivalry between them. Dan then tells Nima that she can only look at the dragons and they would eat her hands if she stuck it out. Nima comes to a view of different creatures that really seem to resemble little dinosaurs more than dragons. I guess the meteor that took them out hasn't gotten to that side yet. Nima gets a strong urge to pat the dragons, and the orb that Saul gave her earlier reacts to that feeling. The dragons then start running towards her. Then one of the dragons, named Gazelle, allows her to pat him and take a ride on her back. Can't imagine how Dan feels seeing his pets immediately like someone else. Must have been sad. Nima gets on Gazelle's back and takes her for a ride. He mentions that he senses the fire dragon's presence in her, but she doesn't have a pact with him yet. I wonder if he imprinted on her before leaving. Gazelle then says that she'll be welcomed as a dragon maiden in their pack. Dan and Gwyn are caught surprised as Nima returns on Lars's back with a pack of dragons following her. She truly is the ultimate Pokemon trainer. The next day, Nima goes to visit the Beast Knight stables. She meets Leston Ogma, captain of the Beast Knights Legion. Leston remembers what Dan told him about how Gazelle let her ride on his back. Poor Dan. If only Gazelle would let him ride, he wouldn't be so heartbroken. Leston decides to take her visit as a challenge and see what all the fuss is about. Guess Leston is going to get heartbroken as well. Leston whistles to call the leader of the horse herd, Uwaz, to give them a look around on horseback. Nima tries to befriend the horse immediately, but he just snorts at her. Quite a proud animal. Is there finally a creature that will escape the grasp of this fluffy, obsessed child? But Nima just notices that he's just trying to protect the herd by being the leader. Leston understood why Uwaz behaved like that, and their bond suddenly grew stronger. So much for this horse being out of this little girl's grasp. As they ride around the stables, they come across a group of baby giant boars that are known for looking for someone to play with. Beast Knights are usually left injured whenever they do this. As the baby boars begin charging at them, like a bunch of wild beasts, Uwaz makes a U-turn and scares them off. They scurry off like the little runts they are while Nima thanks Uwaz. Leston is not too happy about Uwaz acknowledging her thanks. You must be really petty to be beefing with a 3-year-old. Then, they come across a group of birds called wakas, known as the fastest land animals, stealing the spotlight from ostriches and just throwing them to the curbs of the streets. It's really tough out here in the animal kingdom. Nima decides she wants to ride one, but Leston lets her know how hard it'll be to manage their speed. They get on one, and Leston straps her tightly before the bird takes off. He purposely doesn't cast a spell that helps to stop the dizziness and lack of breath she would feel from the speed. This guy is so petty he wanted a child to pass out to prove a point. How is your Appa 3-year-old, please? The merry ride doesn't stop there, as Leston increases the speed of the waka. By the time they're done, Nima is so dizzy and can barely walk. I guess he accomplished his mission. So much for a knight's chivalry. An eagle is then seen flying above them, and Leston calls it to land on his arm, showing off once again. The eagle carries a letter which makes Leston have to leave them to go attend to his colleague that has caused some trouble. Leston then meets with his subordinates and is told that a rare breed white moose is missing. He sets out a team to help find the moose. Before he even makes any headway, he finds Nima riding on top of the moose and Lars with her, and that was how Leston was utterly crushed by a 3-year-old girl. Pretty sure he never saw that one coming. Nima tells him that the elemental spirits were protecting the moose, and Lars guided her to go find it. Leston once again sobs at his lack of power for any kind of animal to love him. Nima gets back home and is celebrating her next birthday. She decides that what she wants for that day is to go to the city. Her father refuses, but the mother is able to convince him, so far as their butler Paul and Karna go with her. The butler doesn't know the setup he just got into. Taking care of 2 young girls going shopping is about to be one of his greatest tasks in life. Nima gets into town with them and begins her first experience with buying things. She asks her sister, Karna, to teach her how to use money. Should have probably taught me at that age as well, would have helped a lot. It's tough out here. Anyway, she goes and makes her first purchase buying 3 drumsticks of turkey and shares it between her, Karna, and the butler. Just then, The smell of a confection called pee-pee can't help but catch her attention. She doesn't hesitate to speed off and go get some. Such a young girl, yet squandering her money all over the place. High time she got a job, in my opinion. She ends up buying a lot of the pee-pees for her, and everyone including those at home. Karna then takes them to a cafe where they bump into a group of 3 ladies that begin to call Nima a failure of a sister, because she has black eyes and can't use magic. How about they try getting animals to love them? Pretty sure they can't even cast basic spells. Karna ends up defending her sister and family name very well, and even mentioning that the royal family appreciates Nima. They're left speechless as Karna leaves with her sister. Would have been a perfect time for Nima to call Saul and show them a thing or two. They get back home, and Nima meets a surprise feast waiting for her with her family, and even the king makes himself present for the feast. You'd think the king had more pressing matters to attend to concerning the kingdom. Maybe he was just really hungry. Anyway, filled with so much emotion, Nima begins crying because of how happy she is. Prince Will comes to tease her about how ugly she looks when crying. Nima is a better person than me. I would have whipped out Saul's power on impulse. The king and queen give Nima a necklace with some powerful magic stones. The prince seizes her hand and gives her bracelet, saying that his own would actually protect her and is more useful. Pretty sure he's just trying to brand her. You never know what that guy is thinking. She continues getting gifts from everyone else and even gets a pet rainhawk from Lestine. I feel his own gift is a trap too, considering how petty he was during that Waka ride. She names her new pet hawk Nox, and celebrates having the best birthday ever. The next day, Nima is training Nox on flying and listening to commands. According to Leston, they've made so much progress in such a short time. I'm surprised he's still trying to fight back after everything he's seen her do. He then suggests that she should try teaching Nox to fly higher. But Nima gives them bad news about her not being able to come around much since she has to start studying. The girl is the master to a dragon, but education still didn't escape her. You mean she did all this without studying in the first place?
Damn!
She goes back home and is introduced to a new tutor known as Annalie Dessa. Nima assesses her to be a proper and nice lady. Little did she know what was in store waiting for her. As soon as the butler who introduced the tutor left, the real lessons began. Annalie was Nima's first real enemy, who would smack her at correcting everything from posture, speech, etc. Annalie is lucky the dragon pack or Lars wasn't around to help Nima. A tamer of dragons being subjected to Spartan lessons, as she called it, would not sit well with them. Nima decides to take Annalie on at her own game. Even when she got hit, she wouldn't let her emotions get the best of her. The best time to have used that dragon orb was on the first lesson day. The second best time is now Nima. It seems she would only be able to keep up her act for so long. At the dinner table, Nima abruptly leaves and her family notices that something is off with her. Her mom tries to ask her, but she runs away and is eventually caught by her brother. As she sees her mother staring at her when she is caught, she realizes who is the scariest woman in her life currently. Mothers really are scary everywhere. Her mother knows it's because of Annalie that she's been acting weird and advises her on how to take down her opponent. If only Annalie knew this was how the family saw her. Ralph also offers to help her sister by healing her when she's exhausted and being her dance partner. A year passes, and Nima has become the perfect lady, showing elegance to everyone, but she still feels there's something off with her tutor, Annalie. Paul the butler then tells Nima what he knows and her relationship with the Divine Church, the same church of the high priest that wanted to turn her into a maiden. I wonder how his colleagues look at him knowing he's chasing around a child. Or I guess all of them are doing the same thing. During one of Nima's lessons, she asks Annalie about a country, Iku, that's suffering from a drought, and why the Divine Church has refused to help them. Annalie tells her that they're a barbaric country receiving God's punishment. Isn't this what we call racism? So much for Annalie being a proper lady. Nima gets into an argument with her about how the church is treating the country, and even though Annalie hits her in retaliation, she doesn't back down. As the argument gets more heated, Annalie is backed into a corner where she doesn't know how to respond and storms out of the room. Didn't think she'd give up like that. How it must feel to have your pride and knowledge shattered by a child. That'll teach her to mess with the power of fluffiness. Even I want some of those Pokemon powers right now. When that was done, Duke Osvi noticed the red mark on Nima's cheek and was about to let hell rain down on Annalie. But Nima assured him that it was her fight and he shouldn't interfere. These children grow up so fast. Annalie was made to apologize properly and Nima's lessons continued. Next, Duke Osfi decides to take Nima with him up north, to the kingdom of Gashi on some business. Nima dives at the offer and can't wait to meet new fluffy creatures. They travel through a teleportation circle and instantly arrive there in the blink of an eye. Would be a nice thing to have on days I'm running late to the office.
Happy, happy, happy.
As they arrive, they're welcomed by Warnus Gilva, who is the proxy lord there. He welcomes them to the place known as Arsenta, and they head to the carriage waiting for them outside. Without a single thought in her head, Nima rushes and opens the door outside to reveal the lovely snowy view. She attempts dashing and is immediately frozen rock solid. You'd think she was taught about climate change. The girl truly is oblivious to a lot, and I mean that in the most condescending way. Her father uses a spell to defrost her and gives her better warm clothing to help with the cold. On the carriage, her father lectures her about the mountain region they're heading to, and how they have to adapt to the climate in different ways. I guess the lessons never truly end. They are welcomed by the mayor of that region and are served a meal after a days-long journey. They are offered giant boar meat, and Nima really enjoys it. To think the babies that wanted to play with her the first time she saw them have now become her meal. How the tables have turned. We're all just food out here. Nima's father then mentions how he needs her help when they go investigating the forest the next day. The monsters there have been causing a lot of casualties and even thinning the number of soldiers that have been sent to help. He wants her to help. Talk to the fire dragon who could have a clue on the monsters. Now they remember my boy Sol after so long. They need to appreciate him more. Sol gives them the information they need, telling them how monsters shouldn't even be within that region. So there's definitely something causing it. Nima suspects God to be the cause of this, but she can't tell them that it's part of her mission. Can't tell me nothing. He's definitely building another ark. He wants all these humans gone. The next morning, everyone is getting ready to head into the woods, including Nima, who decides to carry a dagger for reasons I do not know. Who is giving a 5-year-old child a dagger to be carrying around? Where is her mother? Oh well. As preparations finish, they set out to the forest with Nox soaring the skies as a lookout for them. They come to a stop at an area where they decide to take a break. The bushes rustle and everyone is on guard. 2 of the soldiers move forward to investigate, and one of them cleanly cuts down a tree in one sword swing. He must be the greatest swordsman they have, because I refuse to believe this is a normal feat for the humans here. As the tree falls, it reveals a rabbit that seems to be docile. Nima tries approaching the rabbit and it immediately hops away. And just like that, her Pokemon trainer skills are all in the mud and down the drain. We finally got an animal that ran away from her. At the spot where the rabbit jumped from, there was a trail of blood, meaning it could have been hurt and is probably the reason it ran away. Nima rushes to find the rabbit to try and help it, and also restore her pride as the one loved by all animals. Rushing into a forest of dangerous creatures without thinking, she's quite the dumb child. She ends up finding the rabbit, who jumps into her arms and is no longer scared. Her pride and power of fluffiness have been ultimately restored with that. Just as she's about to leave, a net trap appears from above and catches her in it. When a guard comes looking for her, only her hat is left at the scene. Nima finds herself in a goblin cave in the midst of a lot of goblins. They try to collect the rabbit from her, and she retaliates. They all suddenly become docile and don't look so menacing anymore, and she even finds them cute. Goblins aren't fluffy. This girl must definitely have a psychological problem. The goblins grab her by the arms and take her deeper into the cave. Duke Osfi and the remaining guards find signs of the goblin tracks and follow it to look for Nima. Nima is taken to where she meets 2 other kids who look like twins, Pino and Nino. They explain that they were also kidnapped alongside some adults, but the adults were being held at a different location. Nima then speaks to Sol, asking if she could use his fire magic, but it would be too dangerous where she was. She looks crazy, having a conversation with herself as Pino and Nino stare at her. Pretty sure they thought the goblins brought a crazy one to stay with them. She decides to wait until her dad comes to rescue them, but her stomach growls, showing it has other plans. The female twin, Nino, snaps at her for being hungry in that situation. Just then, Nino's stomach growls as well, leaving her embarrassed, and the same thing happens to Pino. They all laugh it off. Then Nima decides to head out and look for food for them. Wandering around a goblin cave alone? Yeah, sure. I'm sure that's the best action to take. Such a dumb child. She eventually heads out and no longer than a minute meets a goblin guard, and both of them are startled. I swear these goblins might even be dumber than her. She goes ahead to ask the goblin for food, and the goblin offers her a fruit. Her powers have definitely gone beyond my comprehension. I don't even get what's going on anymore. She decides to taste the fruit and ends up complaining it's bitter because she ate the back. How dumb of a child do you have to be to forget that you need to peel a fruit? Anyway, the goblin helps her to peel the fruit, and she ends up savoring the sweet flavor of it. I'm not even going to comment on the goblin still helping her out. Everything is crazy in this show. She asks the goblin for more fruits, which it gives her, and she uses her knife that she brought to peel the back of the fruits. At least she remembered this time how to peel a fruit. She ends up teaching them how to peel fruits properly so that they can enjoy it more. There's a rowdy noise close by. As she moves to find out why, she comes in contact with a bigger goblin that looks like a hobgoblin, and this one can actually communicate with her. Without a second thought, she begins questioning him about why the goblins kidnapped her and those kids. He mentions that it's in the goblin nature to protect kids, and they don't see it as kidnapping. So you're telling me these goblins saw her as some sort of vulnerable stray cat and just took her in? These have to be the nicest goblins ever. He also mentions that they're attacking humans in order to survive, and narrates how they were chased out of their nest by humans, including other creatures such as kobolds and ogres. Seems humans really are oppressing the creatures. She hears him out and thinks of a way to settle things between them and the humans without upsetting the ecosystem of the forest. I can't believe she's actually negotiating with the goblins. What if they decide to eat her on the spot? The power of fluffiness should not be overused. Nima decides to think of a plan to help them before her father comes to rescue her. He would annihilate them before they even had a chance to think. Nima goes back to where Pino and Nino are and tells them what she learned from the goblins while also giving them the fruits to eat. She lets them know the plan of wanting to use them as decoys to reduce the number of goblins. Then they'd be able to negotiate, considering the goblin numbers would be lower. I'm convinced every child in this show is very naive and stupid. Just as they conclude on their plan, Duke Osfi has found the goblin nest, and they're about to raid it to bring back his daughter. Then, the twins come running out of the cave with a couple of goblins chasing them. As soon as the kids are safe with the guards, Nima signals the goblins to return back to the cave. As they approach the cave, the hobgoblin comes out telling them to leave and they'll return the kids. Nima's father already seems to know what she was planning and attacks the hobgoblin with his fire magic, but the dragon's orb protects him. How stupid did she think her father was exactly?
Women.
She should have given up from the start, but she's too silly to have reasoned that way. Nima's father asks her to come out and promises not to be angry or attack as she demanded. As soon as she runs to hug him and he has secured her, he signals to the guards to attack the hobgoblin. What a sly man, really, to deceive his daughter like that. Nima, surprisingly being a smart kid at the moment, signals Saul through the orb to protect the goblin. She then runs back to defend the goblin and explains the situation of them being oppressed by humans and being chased out from their nest. She stands her ground and beckons on her father to listen to her. Duke Osfi, not being able to say no to his daughter, mostly due to his daughter complex, drops his guard and hears her out. As the matter dies down, Nox appears above them and begins signaling them of danger that's nearby. They notice a creature with many eyes hidden in the dark of the woods. Nima asks Sul to provide some light, and it helps to reveal a frost spider, bringing fear to all of them. Hopefully Nima's stupidity and naivetés doesn't bring about their ruin. Who knows, maybe the spider will suddenly become docile like the rest and start acting dumb. Everyone else looked petrified seeing the frost spider, except Nima, who could sense that this beast was starving and panicking. She could definitely understand the hunger part, but why in God's name was this beast panicky? Suddenly, Piccolo steps forward. Come on, I can't be the only one who thinks this dude is a spin-off from Dragon Ball's Piccolo. Nima wants to interfere, but she's asked to leave him be since this is his fight. The next thing I see fries my brain like a proper egg. The spider attacks. Piccolo dodges, skillfully landing a proper kick, which was also blocked skillfully by the spider. Never in my life have I seen a spider who is a kung fu master. Piccolo's moves might have been awesome, but I just couldn't take away my eyes from the spider, moving like it took private lessons from Bruce Lee. The spider goes on the offense, shooting poison at Piccolo, and then proceeds to strike. Everyone thought that was it for our Green Goblin. I'm on fire with these names today. Piccolo dodges the dangerous strike by jumping into the air, and then lands this amazing punch that ends Spidey's life in an instant. Or that was what we thought. As he celebrates his victory, Spidey stands back, leaps into the air, and crushes Piccolo. I definitely didn't see that coming. All hope seemed to be lost until suddenly Piccolo lifts Spidey and throws Spidey on the floor, killing the beast. Piccolo then mentions that he was saved because of the ultimate cheat that Nima used on him. The beast was dying, and Nima could sense that something was amiss. Why was this beast so nervous? Why could she feel it panicking? Suddenly, the beast called out to her and asked Nima to help her protect her child. It was all beginning to make sense. Spidey was nervous because she was pregnant, and before we knew it, this very cute little spider crawled out of its mother, and this left Nima devastated. Being the type of person that wanted to help every creature she could find, this broke Nima's heart, and she cried bitterly. Her father gave her the warmest hug ever, and in the middle of this beautiful father-to-daughter bonding, Piccolo transformed into a human-like being with horns, and more importantly, Bro was naked. This threw everyone into disarray as Piccolo himself didn't even know what was going on. Mina figured she should ask the great dragon Saul what in God's name was going on, and when she was done explaining, Saul said, "It would seem as if Piccolo had evolved, but the fact remained that he had already attained the highest order of the goblin species, which was the hobgoblin." Saul was so intrigued when Mina told him that this new Piccolo had horns. "I'm guessing we'll have to find a better name for him now," and Saul absolutely needed to see this for himself, and told Mina that he'll be there himself the next day. Forgetting that Mina was mentally an adult woman, she began to size up naked Piccolo, if you know what I mean. Her dad, like every other father, became disturbed and covered her eyes immediately. This man doesn't know that his daughter's body count might have been in double digits in her previous life. Piccolo was given some clothes, Mina helps him with his button, and then drives her dad to madness when she gives him a hug. Only God knows what must have been going on in this man's mind, and it's at this point that baby Spidey crawls to Nima, and she asks it if it would like to go home with her. Black Spidey agrees and crawls on top Nima, who then gives it the name Gratia. Right after giving it the name, a mark appeared on the forehead of the baby beast. Obviously, Nima had done something she wasn't supposed to do. The next day seemed brighter and better, and Nima was ready to face the day head-on. She saw Piccolo working with some men to move the body of the dead mama spider, and just then, Nino and Pino walked towards her. They greeted, and my God, I am just noticing how cute these kids are. I have good genes, so if there's any lady that would like to have beautiful kids like this, leave your number for me in the comment section. Just then, this guy brought this animal, telling Nima that it had been healed. Obviously, Nima wanted to keep the pet, but her dad was against it and went on to give her a serious PowerPoint presentation of why she shouldn't take the animal from its natural habitat. Hearing this, and realizing what she had done, she told her father that she had already named the little Spidey Gratia. This was a very big deal because once a name was given to a beast, the spirits recognized the beast as an entity, and then the beast is able to use magic, and this was insane. She asked Piccolo for his name, and was very surprised to find out that Piccolo didn't have a name. It made me wonder how he was that strong when he didn't even have a name. Nima's father, realizing that it would be more dangerous leaving the baby spider in the wild now that it had been named, decided that it would go back with them, and with that, they all headed back to the village. When they got to the village, they discovered that Nino and Pino were children of the Iriga family, and Nima's dad made sure they were properly escorted home. Before they left, Nino told Nima that she should come visit them to play with them whenever she got the chance, and they shared the most beautiful hug I have ever seen in my entire life. Once again, these kids are too cute, and my offer still stands. Not long after this, the dragon arrived, and Nima was having the time of her life on his body. So, the description that Nima gave to Saul made him think that Piccolo was an Oni, but upon seeing him, he immediately tells them that Piccolo isn't an Oni because he could sense that Piccolo could use elemental powers. Okay, this sounded too interesting, and apparently Nima thought so too, so they decided to test his abilities. This guy created a clay doll, and Piccolo shows us that he is a distant cousin of the Avatar. He uses fire, wind, water, and earth. Che clearly blew their minds and mine too, and Nima mentions that his powers will be useful in her plan. This piques her father's interest, and she tells him she'll tell him about it later. Then Nima, being Nima, unintentionally suggested a name for him, and he accepted it. The name she gave him is Shinky. There you have it. Nima had acquired another slave. Back at the house, Nima tells her father the plan she has. Nima wants both the humans and monsters to coexist, but it's difficult since the humans see the monsters as enemies, and the monsters see humans as meatballs. Forget I said that. They also see humans as enemies. She proposes that all the monsters be transported to an inhabited mountain, which would be sealed with a barrier, and then when the monsters become overpopulated, adventurers can hunt them or use them for training. This way, both the humans and monsters will keep each other in check. She also mentioned that they could cover the expenses by placing inns and shops at the base of the mountain. There is nothing you want to tell me in Nima's previous life. She definitely watched a shitload of anime. This idea might have sounded like it came out of a drunkard testing cannabis for the first time, but Nima's father bought it and then requested that Shinki accompany them as they go to make their inspection in the town named Cass. Shinki is a bit reluctant because he would have to leave his goblin horde if he was to accompany them on this expedition, so he asks Nima for a favor. He asks her to also give a name to the second strongest goblin in his horde. This has to be one of the only animes I've watched where goblins are not outright evil and demonic. I'm sure Goblin Slayer will not agree with me. Shinki takes Nima back to the cave to meet the second strongest goblin, who apparently is a female goblin. You'd think the females would look slightly better than the males, but nope, this green thing is ugly as hell. She names her Suzuko, and just as they were about to leave, another goblin shows up and demands a name, and she names this one Tuki. While they head back to meet Nima's father, Shinki tells Nima of how his older brother lost his life while fighting humans, and Nima comforted him. Nima, Shinki, and her father, the medieval Bugatti, to the town where they would make their findings, and Nima's father tells her that after the inspection as Cass, he would head back home, but that Ralph, Nima's elder brother, will take over and continue the investigation with Nima. They arrive, and Nima's father becomes instantly occupied with all the townsfolk welcoming and greeting him. Nima uses this opportunity to slip away with Shinki to find the guild, because they were also important in her plan. She finds one and they go in, and it looks quite empty. They are met by this pretty lady, who is shocked to see a beast person like Shinki in this part of the town. Shinki tells her he'll be on his way as soon as Nima finishes with whatever business she has there. She introduces herself as Aria Bell, and begins to show them around. She takes them to the place where adventurers come to receive missions, and it's unusually quiet. Even I didn't understand what was going on until Ariabel told them that they use magic to make the booth soundproof, so no third party would be able to listen to the mission that would be given to them. Suddenly, this guy that looks like a troublemaker steps outside the confines of the barrier and started raising his voice. What the hell, what this weirdo yapping about? Seems Nima had the same question in mind. She walks towards him and asks what the problem is, and at first, he ignores the little girl because, let us be honest, who wouldn't? But when she tells him she's the Duke's daughter, my man composes and finally narrates what is going on to Nima. This man, whose name is Heilrin DeWitt, tells her that the mayor of this town is a wicked man who embezzles money through all sorts of means. He also told them about a goblin situation they were currently facing that the mayor wasn't doing anything about, and Shinki offered to find out what was going on. This was very disturbing news for Nima, and she asked DeWitt if he had proof of this, and was ready to swear this in front of her father. He agreed without a second thought, and Nima called out to Knox and gave him a letter to give to her father, telling him to meet them at the mayor's place. Ariabel proposed to take them to the mayor's place despite their protests that she didn't need to bother with that. They arrived at the mayor's place, and Nima met her father standing right at the gate, but there was something different about him. The Duke was not smiling. Apparently he had searched everywhere for Nima, and the stupid girl realized she had been away the whole day. Not only did she not ask for permission before leaving, but she didn't even go with her personal bodyguards. I mean, in her defense, she probably forgot that she was a child because she wasn't. Nima's dad gave Nima the scolding of her life, and personally, I think it should have been accompanied by a little ass-whooping, but I guess that's not how they raise kids in this place. The scolding was befitting enough because it brought Nima to tears, and she was about to cry even more if not that Ralph showed up at this time to carry his baby sister and shield her from her father's anger. Nima is really lucky. My older siblings would join my parents in beating me half to death. Will and Lars also show up. This girl has so many people backing her up. Even her parents aren't completely allowed to scold her. Nima's dad humbly kneels to greet the prince and asks why he's here. Apparently he had some business around and decided to come play with Nima. Nima then remembers the actual reason they were here: to investigate the corrupt politician and get to the root of this embezzlement. She then introduces Ariabel and Dimwit to her father. What did I just say? I meant DeWitt. And all together they go to question the mayor who wasn't expecting them. Nima's father is badass as hell. The man didn't even sugarcoat this. He told him straight of the accusations, and the mayor tried to put up an argument, but it is a given fact that the only person who could beat Nima's dad in an argument was Nima's mum. Dayland, the Duke, gathered a few personnel who helped bring this unjust situation to light. He specially thanked Heelrin DeWitt because his insights and investigative abilities helped a lot. The Duke offered for DeWitt to work with him, but DeWitt refused and said he had to resume his duties in the palace. Nima immediately requested that DeWitt and Belle work for her. Everyone was stunned, but I don't know why, and I'm hoping we'll find out soon. The Duke forewarned that if they accepted to work for Nima, their lives would be at risk. He begs them to first take an odal before he continued with the details of the job task. These people went on a break and returned. That's how they skipped the whole Duke's address, which entails a certain Nima's plan. Well, Wilhelt saved them the trouble of waiting to know the plan, as he stated that the plan is to gather the monsters and make a community for them. Everyone jumped on board with the plan, and Belle and DeWitt finally agreed to work for Nima. I have come to the conclusion that Nima uses some form of juju to get these guys to work for her, because why does everyone want to serve a toddler? As soon as Shinki walked into the room, Nima jumped right on him for a hug. As both Shinki and Nima exchanged greetings and pleasantries, we saw an airy presence behind Nima. You know it's Ralph. Ralph requested to be introduced to the fine young man standing in front of him. He was well informed by Nima that the fine young man in front of him used to be a goblin who evolved into this sexy young specimen in front of him. Ralph was infuriated that his father could let that be. He immediately questioned his father, who replied saying he should view Shinki as a bodyguard. So, she doesn't only have an overprotective father, but also an even more overprotective brother. Cursed is the man that will marry Nima. Nima told Shinki to fill them in on what happened. Shinki went ahead to explain how he whipped the asses of 16 goblins. He did first state that he explained to them, but they didn't listen, so he put them in their place, and now they serve him. A bug is leading them to the cave, as he explains. Nima corrected that they're spirits, not bugs, but I saw fireflies, though. The guards explained that another troop's attack was led by a werewolf, but this time the troops had a lot of high-ranking officers. This is posing to be a serious threat, and for simplicity the Duke named the troop Runohark, and the incident of the attack on the monsters the Southern Province incident. Nima likened the Runohark to cockroaches from her past life. The Duke said he's going to take his leave and resume back at the palace. He urged our fine young knights to watch over them, saying he knows it's out of task for them to take care of Nima and the rest. They accepted the offer, and Nima burst into flames of appreciation and thanked them. Nima was dismissed by the dome, saying the adults had something to discuss. She said she's going to take a nap with the holy beast, Lars. Ralph tried to stop her, saying that she shouldn't take Lars. She played all of them as she used Shinki as a decoy to make them accept for her to nap with the holy beast, and these young foolish lads took the fall for her deception. Ralph, Wilhert, and Nima headed somewhere in a cart. Wilhert said they should give the plan a better name. Ralph cooked up a very stupid sentence. That thing is a whole title, not a name. Wilhert gave it a better name, Project Shana, which means strength and courage. He added that it seems that the god of creation had a liking to Nima, seeing that the holy beast Shinki and her pet spider Gradia are gathering around her, so it's safe to say that she has been blessed. Nima quickly got up and preached a little sermon Jehovah's Witnesses used to preach in my hometown. God loves us all. Nima looked aside the window and saw Lars in the air. The Duke returned to the palace. Karna is pissed that he came back without Nima. Karna yelled at him, but he's chill because the fire dragon Ralph and Lars are with her. Cerulia noted that Nima must be hatching a plan. The Duke filled them in, and once again we don't know the plan. Cerulia likened the evil grin on Karna's face to her father's when he is hatching an evil plan. One conversation led to another, and the Duke said he'll send Karna out to the world so she'll learn how to tame monsters. I think subjugate is a perfect word. Wilhert and the rest arrived at their destination. The guards at the gate requested to see Ralph and Wilhert in confirmation of their presence. Nima used her big spirits to eavesdrop on them. They finally went in, and they were seated with the mayor of Ekov, Parzeth. Parzeth explained to them that kobolds have been attacking lately, and they'd love to be assisted in eliminating them. Nima listened in thoughts, did not realize what's going on. As soon as she realized, she brought up an excuse, and they all left to explore the city. The city looked dead, like the life of the city had been sucked out of it. Nima heard a sound and called the attention of everyone. The guards ran to check, and Shinki picked her up and ran there. There we saw a few kids beating something or someone up. Little kids like Nima. Nima noticed that they're beating up a dog. She went to defend it, It enraged one of the little kids who proceeded to raise his hand to dust her face, but the guard stopped him and picked him up. She pep-talked the children, saying they don't always have to result in violence, but this only infuriated that boy. Bro was so pissed he declared his name as Belgar, the son of the adventurer guy, Cruz the Red. He wants to be as strong as his pops and protect everyone from monsters. Nima declared herself too, and said she'll remember him. The kids took their leave, the dog was healed, and soon enough, Nima was told that it's a kobold cub. Nima is determined to return it to its mother, even at the risk of being attacked. Thanks for watching, fellow weebs. If you enjoyed this recap, dive into the next video or playlist. See you in the next recap.